In the traditional biblical narrative, a prophet is a reliable instrument. They are the mouthpieces of the divine, expected to go exactly where they are sent and say exactly what they are told. So when God commands Jonah to travel northeast to Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrian Empire, the expectation is clear. He is to enter the heart of enemy territory and declare that their city is on the brink of collapse. For an Israelite in the 8th century BCE, Nineveh represented the peak of state-sponsored terror. The Assyrians were a hyper-violent superpower, famous for siege warfare and the brutal treatment of their captives. Jonah reacts to the command with immediate action, but in the wrong direction. He heads straight for the port city of Joppa to find the first ship leaving the country. Nineveh sat hundreds of miles to the northeast. Jonah, however, pays for a passage to Tarshish, aiming for the opposite end of the known world. By putting the Mediterranean between himself and his mission, he hopes to remain permanently out of God's reach. This wasn't a flight of cowardice. It was an act of aggressive silence. Jonah wanted Nineveh destroyed, and he understood that if he refused to deliver the warning, he could personally ensure that his enemies remained condemned. God answers Jonah's detour by hurling a massive wind at the sea. As the ship threatens to break apart, the pagan sailors are frantic, praying to every god in their pantheon. Meanwhile, Jonah is found in the hold, fast asleep amidst the chaos. The sailors eventually cast lots to identify the source of the curse, and the lot falls on Jonah. He confesses that he is a Hebrew, a worshipper of the God who made the sea, and that he is the reason they are all about to die. Jonah tells them to throw him overboard to still the storm. Curiously, these heathen sailors show more concern for a single life than Jonah does for an entire city. They row until their arms fail before finally giving in to his request. The moment Jonah hits the water, the sea goes silent. The sailors are so stunned by the immediate calm that they offer sacrifices and vows to Jonah's God on the spot. As Jonah sinks, God provides a dog gadol, a great fish, to swallow him. Jonah spends 3 days in the darkness of the creature's belly, a space he describes as the belly of Sheol, or the grave. It's here, at the lowest possible point, that he finally offers a prayer of thanksgiving before being vomited back onto dry land. In the logic of the narrative, the fish functions as a sanctuary. Jonah sought a grave in the ocean to escape his calling, but he found himself sustained within the very depths he used to hide from God. When the command comes a second time, Jonah finally goes to Nineveh. The city was so massive it reportedly took 3 days just to walk across it, but Jonah only makes it a single day into the outskirts. He delivers the shortest, most half-hearted sermon imaginable. 40 days and Nineveh is overthrown. He doesn't mention God, he doesn't list their sins, and he offers no hope of a way out. This apathetic 5-word warning somehow triggers the most successful mission in the history of prophecy. The news reaches the king of Nineveh. He immediately steps down from his throne, discards his royal robes, and covers himself in sackcloth and ashes. The king issues a decree for a total fast. Every citizen is ordered to pray and turn from violence, and in a touch of satirical heightening, even the city's cattle and sheep are forced to wear sackcloth and abstain from food. When God sees this display of humility, he relents. He spares the city he had threatened to destroy, demonstrating that divine mercy doesn't stop at the borders of Israel. Jonah is incandescent with rage. The very thing he feared has happened. The brutal Assyrians have been forgiven. He quotes God's own words back to him as an accusation. "I knew you were a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love." He is so miserable that he asks to die, eventually storming out of the city to sit on a high hill and watch for any sign of a catastrophe. As Jonah pouts in the heat, God causes a leafy plant to grow over him, providing shade. For the first time in the entire story, the text says Jonah was very happy. But the next morning, God sends a worm to eat the root of the plant, and a scorching wind to beat down on Jonah. Once again, the prophet lapses into a suicidal tantrum over the loss of the shade. Jonah sits alone in the dry dirt, mourning the loss of a common weed he enjoyed for exactly 24 hours, all while waiting for the fire to fall on a city of 120,000 living, breathing people. God leaves Jonah with a final, devastating question. If you can feel pity for a plant that appeared and withered in a day, should I not have pity on Nineveh, a great city full of people who don't know their right hand from their left? The ancient story ends right there, with the divine question still hanging in the air. We never see Jonah's response. The book acts as a mirror, leaving the reader to decide if they are comfortable with a God whose grace extends to their own worst enemies. This concept of unexpected rescue from the depths became central to the New Testament. When Jesus was asked for a sign of his authority, he pointed back to this narrative, calling his own death and resurrection the sign of Jonah. Ultimately, the text presents a divine compassion that refuses to be governed by human tribalism. It suggests a grace that is wider than our national interests and much larger than our personal sense of justice.